5 Obstructions by Lars von Trier and Jørgen Leth. So let's go around the room, see how we liked it. Mohammed, since you were here early, maybe we can start with you. Did you like the film, dislike the film? How was it?
Yeah, I really loved the film, though I didn't understood it completely. I was not able to comprehend the technical parts and what was actually happening. What I conquered or what I understood was how the junior director means Lars, I think, is challenging putting obstruction, and how this director, I think Jorgen, he keeps on improvising what he had done, that short film, The Perfect Human. So it was beautiful to see them collaborating on what to say, some kind of experiment. But and before that, that 13-minute short video, film, which was shot in 1968 or 67. That too, when I watched that one, uh, I didn't felt anything new about it. But when I read about it, that it's a cult film, it became a cult film, and yeah, the voice asking this man, this woman, what a perfect man does. That were really intriguing question. Though we know these are very trivial things. There is nothing special about a man wearing a shoe. There is nothing special about a man smoking or doing making her hair. But how it was put, how the camera was moved, that really made me think how we lead our life. And the question, no? Who is the perfect human, or perfect human does what in everyday day-to-day life. So that one also, 13 minutes video was really interesting. Um, Coming to the again the five obstruction film, yeah, I need to get lot of understanding about that, and as we progress, I may get to know a lot of things which I missed.
Okay. Aroonav, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's.
Yeah. So, um, how do I present it? So, very different from what we see from Lars von Trier after the early 2000s. This is more attuned to his early Dogma 95 days. So more than anything else in the film, right? What I found amusing or I found fascinating was the personality dynamic between the two people involved, right? So in one hand we have our enfant terrible of Danish cinema, Lars von Trier is very freewheeling, rambunctious kind of filmmaker, and on the other hand we have Jørgen Leth, who is granddaddy of Danish cinema, very much a formalist. The kind of films that he makes are very meticulous, pristine, follow certain rules and all of that. So this personality dynamic at play, this is the most interesting aspect of the film for me. Through the series of these so-called obstructions, right? Especially the first four, what von Trier is essentially trying to do is to crack through this aloof artistic facade that Leth has, right? If it indeed is a facade, right? And to sort of induce him into making a bad film or making a mess, right? And as we see that Leth, he keeps on overcoming these obstacles, making a series of films which are actually quite nice, right? They're quite structured, quite integrated films, and yeah, I mean, we get to see the genesis of the films from where it starts, the making of the film. We kind of see the psychoanalysis of the makers involved as well, right? And it emerges as a friendly sort of competition, but also two competing visions of life and art as well. So yeah, first impressions. I mean, I've told you before as well, I'm not a big fan of Dogma 95. I find it a bit pretentious. I mean, it has its merits, but on a whole, I find it a bit pretentious. But yeah, it's an amusing film. Yeah, not something that I found to be really path-breaking or very much intellectually stimulating as such.
Okay. I'm a little sick, so I may not have the energy to speak for long. But I'll go ahead with. So to start off with the perfect human, right? It's what's fascinating about that is they've removed everything, almost everything, from the frame. It's just one person, right? And it's the voiceover which is telling you that, hey, this person is the perfect human. There's a male version and a female version of the perfect human, and we see both of them one by one. And it really reminds you of TV commercials, right? Like TV commercials will show you a product and say, this is the best soap in the market, or this is the best butter in the market.
The best a man can get,
Yeah,
Jill.
yeah. So, question to both of you: when you saw the Perfect Human short film, did you believe what the voiceover was saying, or was it not in sync with what you were saying?
So it was intended to be a satirical play on advertising
Hmm.
films. That's how he conceived it.
Hmm.
So on that front, it worked really well. I mean, that's how it became popular as well in the art house scene.
But as a viewer, through the 10 or 12 minutes of the film, did you get more convinced that, yeah, you know what, this guy does look indeed, well put together. I can't find any flaws in this person, whether it's the male or female variant of the perfect human.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of plays on that fallacy itself, right? To
Hmm.
define a perfect human. What is a
Hmm.
perfect human? So, so there's a Brechtian notion at play here, right? So, I mean, while watching it, we already know that something, the notion or the idea of a perfect human, as propagated by advertising, that itself is being criticized here. So, for me, no, of course, no.
Um, Now I am able to connect as Vivek has said, that advertisement. When I was watching, definitely I was feeling what is special about this man? The voice is telling he is a perfect human, but why should I believe? That was the first question in my mind. Yeah, then now I am getting it is.
So, did you
Uh,
believe or did you not believe? Was it
I didn't
convincing?
believe, Baba. I
You
was
did
just
not. Okay.
looking. Okay, in future, coming as the movie goes, I may get to know that what is perfect about these two, male and female. But at the end, I couldn't get anything. I was really disappointed that, Arre Baba, somebody is saying I should. Why should I believe? So ultimately, I was disappointed, and I said, yeah, I don't have. Ultimately, I didn't believe anything. There was any special, perfect thing about them.
And funny enough, I saw this short film when I was some 18, 19 years old, so long time ago. And the first time I saw it, I believed it. And I was like, yeah, I can't see any faults. He's, completely confident. And uh, even the silly dance he's doing, he's quite smooth at it. It's a funny dance, but who am I to say? So, yeah, I believed it. And this time around, uh, I could dig a little deeper into the film than last time. And it reminded me of all the commercials where you see young people live amazing lives, right? They have perfect clothes, perfect body, and doing the most interesting things, uh, laughing, partying, uh, just all things positives at all times. That's how the advertising world wants to convey it. That and and I believe this has been subject of research multiple times, and people have found correlations between the perception of ads and mental health, and it can have negative outcomes for people if they compare their lives to what you see in TV commercials. That I'm not beautiful enough, or I'm not fit enough, or I'm not rich
That,
enough.
that
All
role
these
has
things.
moved to social media now, right? So Instagram is the
Yeah,
new
it's
ad.
it's still advertising, no? Whether you do
Yeah.
it in a magazine or you do it on Facebook, it's still
Yeah.
advertising in the end. So yeah, the role of perception makes a big deal on how you feel about yourself in the end. So a lot of the actions which they show, right, you could easily take that clip out and put it in some other TV commercial and it would work. Whether it's the lady taking out, the stocking, or this guy is shaving, it all fits perfectly into the kind of shots you're used to seeing in TV commercials. And the joke of the film comes up in the end that, uh, that once he starts cutting his nails, right, uh, that's when the illusion breaks that, oh, he's not perfect, he's got unclean nails, he has to trim them off. So in a way he's not perfect, he has to make himself perfect, he has to uh, maintain himself in a certain way. And then he says, oh my, I have some, did he say a rash, or what does he say, some burning sensation on his fingers, and then there's a white spot in his heart. And so his health is not good, we don't know what's wrong with him, but we know that his health is not perfect. So he can't be a perfect human. Biologically speaking, he's not perfect. He's, just like all of us. And in the end, he says, today I saw something that, I don't know, do you remember the line?
I hope to understand in a few days.
In a few days, yeah. That whatever you see, it will stay on your mind, and you have to think about it to find an interpretation. And hopefully, this short film did that for us, that we saw a deconstruction of what what perfection is advertised to be, and in the end we find out that it's still a human. And it's up to us to question every image that we see and every voiceover we hear. Should we believe what we see and what we hear, or should we understand that these images and sounds are made to manipulate us to buy a product? And they don't care if people's mental health gets irritated in the end, or, and yeah, it's it's a commercial decision for them. And funny enough, so I've worked in ads, uh, and uh, I have done castings for roles like this, where you need a group of young people, for for a youth specific brand. And I can tell you from personal experience that the kind of actors who came to audition for us were not living a perfect life by any means. They were ordinary humans. You would walk across them, in a crowded street, and you would not notice them twice. And they're good actors. I'm not saying anything about their acting or their appearance. I'm just saying they're just regular people, just like you and I, and they've they've got a lot of things going on in their lives, a lot of things they're troubled with, and all these things. But when they show up on set, and the makeup department does their thing, costume department does their thing, and the cinematography department puts up the whole scene put together, what you see in the commercial is unlike themselves by all metrics.
Then how do we fit these celebrities? Suppose Amitabh Bachchan.
Mhm.
So shouldn't we, we'll rely on his words on using that product, what he's saying?
I don't believe any endorsement of anybody.
Do you think Amitabh Bachchan is using Navratna hair oil?
No, definitely not.
Or Ajay Devgan is using Rajnigandha?
Yeah, so the time is offered to the highest bidder. That between, let's say, 3 films a year or 5 films a year, this actor has X number of free days. So, they'll talk to multiple brands before choosing which product. And I'll tell you one story. We had a commercial for a mango juice product. Now I'm going to name the brand. Very famous actor. At that time, one of the top celebrities. And the part of his agreement was that uh, he cannot be seen drinking anything else in public. He cannot drink Pepsi, he cannot drink Fanta, he cannot drink Sprite. If he's going to drink something in public, it has to be this brand. So fair enough, no? They're paying uh, ridiculous amounts of money for this endorsement. They want to make it seem like this actor really likes this drink, and that's why he's endorsing it. But the trouble behind the scenes was the actor actually preferred a different brand of mango juice, and he was kind of pissed off about this requirement. He he said, "I will give them my time. I'll shoot my ad, and but what I drink in the car is none of their business." So they came to a very creative agreement that they will package the juice that the actor prefers in this endorsed brand bottles and send it to his assistant.
Really?
Yes. And
Okay.
if he wants to drink, he has to drink from this bottle. So they agreed on that.
God.
Okay, I will share one more thing about one of my friend using one brand of the Sparks. I asked, why do you prefer this? Then he said, Akshay Kumar. He's the brand ambassador. Then I said, why Akshay Kumar? He said, yeah, definitely. If it had been some other guy, I wouldn't go. Then I asked, okay, then what is special about Akshay Kumar? And why do you buy these Sparks every year? Then he said, see, Akshay Kumar wakes up every day at 4 and goes to gym. He's regular. So there is consistency in his own life. It is related to his Sparks shoes also. They are consistent and they last longer. So that's why I prefer. Uh, that was his reason, but I felt it very logical. If his life is consistent, he leads a very, what to say, healthy life, regular life, exercising every day, definitely it will be some elements, or what to say, uh, that sparks will be similar to his. I'm not able to put it rightly, but somehow it's a reflection of his routine in that sparks brand.
Um, let me phrase this whole perfect man thing in a slightly different way, if I can. So, Mohammed, you were talking about uh, Bollywood movie star, no? So, if I say action hero, uh, that's probably the name you will pick first, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Then, if I say romantic hero, who can you think of?
I haven't seen any romantic Bollywood. I
No,
don't
but you
watch.
don't have to see it, but you know which actors are doing romantic films. Or
In this
even
in La
English.
La Land, that hero, I don't
Ryan
remember it.
Gosling. Okay.
Ah, yeah,
So,
it's my favorite.
okay. So you've chosen that, but if we say Ryan Gosling, then you can define Ryan Gosling very clearly, right? Okay, he looks like this, and this is the kind of clothes he usually wears, and this is his manner of speaking, and so on. But when I say romantic hero, there's many other actors who fit the bill, correct?
Definitely.
There's Ryan Gosling. Aroonav, can you name one?
Hollywood, Bollywood, which one?
Anyone, doesn't matter.
Shah Rukh Khan.
Okay, Shah Rukh Khan and Ryan Gosling. They're very two different people. But since we've had one layer of abstraction, we are classifying them as romantic heroes. Now both of them fit into that definition, right? So the more abstract you get with the concept, the general its application becomes. So in the case of this short film, they have taken away everything, right? There's absolutely nothing. There's pure white. It's not a living room. It's not a club. It's not any place in specific. It's just a void of white room. It's obviously shot in a studio with a psych, but that's a different story. But what we see on screen is endless white in all directions, and they even talk about it, that there is no end to this room. That means there's you can imagine whatever you want in it. It's could be anything. So that means that it applies to many different things. What you imagine in that white room and what I imagine can be two different things. And so when you've taken away everything and it applies to, a large category of definitions, instead of saying romantic hero, they're saying this is the perfect human. So how do you argue against that? For example, do we know
Basically
whether,
setting up an archetype, right?
Yeah, they're saying this is the definition and this is the example.
True.
And
Yeah.
for example, we talked about Ryan Gosling. Do we know that Ryan Gosling is actually a very romantic person in personal life? We don't. We have no idea. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. Right? But since we see that on screen, we believe that he's a believable actor in a romantic role. So they're doing the same thing here with the perfect human. It doesn't matter if this actor who's playing the role of a perfect human is perfect or not, but the question is whether you believe the voiceover. The voiceover is, in a way, not suggesting, it's claiming that this is the perfect human. It is saying that with confidence. And you see this in ads also. They don't say that this product is slightly better than the other one. They'll say, no, this is the best product. This is the best shoes in the market. This is the best pen in the market. So they say it with confidence. You talked about Amitabh Bachchan. So he says it with confidence, right? Use this product, use that product. Question is, do we believe them or not?
Yeah, we have to think about that. When who says, and when we have to investigate that. Yeah, in advertisement, definitely I didn't believe him. I said this is completely false. He's fooling me. He's just simple. But when it is done by Amitabh Bachchan or Akshay Kumar, I take him based on his roles he has played, and I think most of us humans, we do the same thing, and advertisement succeed in that attempt, fooling us.
And the most interesting part about this short film is that in the beginning he's presented as an object. Both the male actor and female actor, they're presented as objects. these are the features of this object. It can dance well, it wears good clothes, and it walks with confidence, and it's presented as an object they're selling with
Yeah, it is more
features.
like scientific language. They were using scientific language. Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt that.
But then the twist is that in the end, you're talking about a human, you're not talking about a product. So the human qualities come through. And yeah, he's not a perfect person, and you see that towards the end.
Hmm.
So the illusion is broken, and it's basically a deconstruction of the whole myth with advertising.
So ultimately, I understood why it is called a cult film, because it
Yeah,
has
this was in
conveyed lot of things.
1968,
Yeah,
right? Even today, we use the same background for a lot of shoots, for product shoots. In fact, we set one day aside just to shoot the product shots. So okay. Regarding the film, do you guys have anything that comes to mind you want to talk about? We've been talking for long. I want to stop for a second.
I may, Aroonav, if you have anything.
No, no,
No,
go ahead.
please go ahead. Yeah.
This one question was that is it ever possible to make a better film by the same director? I'm not saying the different director. Um, Suppose I have made a film 20 years back, and I have to remake it again. Will I be able to make it better than what I have made, or I'll fail to make any better than what I have attempted 20 years back? Is it ever possible?
It has been done several times, right, Aroonav? The first example which comes to mind is Alfred Hitchcock made The Man Who Knew Too Much
Hmm.
in in uh, in the 20s, I think, and then in the 30s he made it again after coming to Hollywood. And it is arguable which one is better. My personal preference is the older one, but uh, by general consensus, a lot of people think the 1930s version is the better film. And there's many filmmakers who have remade their own films. The filmmaker Cecil DeMille, he made Ten Commandments twice.
Yeah. Frank
Again,
Capra did Lady for a Day and Pocketful of Miracles. One in the 30s, one in the 60s. Then
and for Indian
Haneke did it,
films,
right? Funny Games in German,
Funny
Funny Games
Games,
in
English,
English.
and
Yeah.
correct. And for Indian films, you must have heard of Mother India, right?
Yeah,
So
Mother
that
India.
film was made for the first time in the 1940s, called Aurat, if I'm not wrong. Then later, he remade the same film with a bigger budget and bigger cast with Mother India, and that was, award-winning classic and all that.
Yeah, in this movie also, what I felt by providing 5 obstruction, the Lars, the director, is trying to. I felt that he's trying to improve that first film, The Perfect Human, or I don't know, but why he gave him that challenge, different obstructions, and through that, at the end, I felt that he's trying to rekindle that joy of making a film in jargon. That was I felt, but I'm not clear what was the intention of these two director collaborating. And yeah, there was improvement. I felt that cartoon version of the same film then, but I preferred why they are working again, but intellectual exercise, that's all that I felt. But they are spending a lot of money, there are a lot of resources going
Exactly.
in. So what was the purpose? I couldn't get.
Yeah, ultimately it's a exercise, it's an experiment, right? It's an experiment in conceptual art. Nothing more, nothing less.
So there's a little bit of history to these two guys. I'm not sure if I put that in the PDF or not, but this guy Jørgen Leth, he was a professor at a university where Lars von Trier was studying, and a lot of other filmmakers were also in the same college. Suzanne Bier, if you've heard, she's also a famous filmmaker. She was also one of the students over there. Then Thomas Winterberg was also a student over there. And so apparently, he says this in the film that Lars von Trier learned from this guy, Jørgen Leth, that you need to put limitations to your vision. Sorry about the car alarm in the back. So you need to put, learn to work within limitations, and that's how you improve your creativity. And he took that advice very seriously, and I'm sure both of you read about the Dogma 95 movement and how it played out. And so what he was doing with this film is returning the favor, right? He learned basically the groundwork of Dogma 95 through this Jørgen Leth filmmaker, basically a mentor figure in a way. And that film movement, Dogma 95, is essentially the reason why Thomas Winterberg and Lars von Trier are still famous. That's what those are the films that people refer to first before watching their more recent films. So in a way, his career is completely hanging on the words of advice given by Jørgen Leth. What he's doing with what Lars von Trier is doing with Jørgen Leth is he's helping him come out of a creative block. So in the film, they mention that he spends a lot of time in Haiti, and it's also revealed that we don't know what has happened, but he's gone there because he wants to disconnect from his surroundings. And people usually don't disconnect from their surroundings unless there's something really wrong. And in his case, he was very depressed, and we don't know what the situation is, but it was severe enough that he could not stand the daily life of his surroundings, wanted to get away from it. So in a way, this entire exercise is for him to not only test his creative muscle in a way, and also reassure himself that he's still a great filmmaker and he can still do great things from here on onwards. So the intention was personal, but the execution was done in this game show format of, I'm going to give you some rules and you have to follow these rules. So it's an interesting experiment. And what do you guys think? The films that were made over here, would you say it's as good as the original black and white film, or an improvement upon the original film?
I love the first one, the Cuban one.
Yeah, definitely the first one.
So you guys like the Cuban one? Okay. Is there anyone which you did not like?
The first version I really didn't love that the frame challenge, within 12 frames you have to make a film. I really hated that one. It was complete a mess, a garbage. But the cartoon version, I felt little bit okay, connected, and the voiceover was conveying the intended message properly. But I really hated the first version.
Okay. And I'm assuming both of you have read about the Dogma 95 movement, right? So we had a little booklet that was distributed to the members last week, and it had some context to the film, and one of the key contexts was this film movement Dogma 95. What do you think about that, both of you? They have 10 rules, right? You can't do this, you can't do that. There's some 10 rules over there. If you want, I can pull it up and I can read out the rules. But meanwhile, why don't you guys tell me what do you guys think of such rules applied to filmmaking? Does that make sense? Does that seem stupid?
So I am sympathetic to the motivations at play here, the
Mhm.
genesis of the movement, and why it came about. The typical dissatisfaction with the Hollywood style of filmmaking, right? And getting down to the brass tacks, the essence of filmmaking, all of those motivations. I'm completely on board with that. But the the set of rules seems very arbitrary to me. At the end of the day, it's very pretentious. How many? There were 31 films made under this movement, and also the practice of certifying the films as Dogma 95 certified. How pretentious
Mhm.
can you be? and, and out of those 31 films, right, there are hardly probably two films uh, which hold up to this date, right? None of the others uh, are even uh, good films, right? Let alone great. So the best among it, of course, is the first one, Winterberg's first film. What's the name? The
Celebration.
Celebration. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's of course a very good film. That's stands the test of time. It's still a good film. And Von Trier's Idiots is also a pretty good film. But apart
Mhm.
from these two, right, I have seen around five or six of them. None of
Okay.
them are at all any good. I mean, some of them are just horrendous, absolutely bad.
Yeah, so the home video quality that
Not
you
not
get
just
to
because of
see
that, right? So
is very
all that.
intentional.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course, they're
yeah,
following the rules and all of that. And
yeah.
in some cases, it's very hypocritical, right? They
Mm,
don't follow the rules actually. They set
mm,
out the rules and they themselves don't follow it. Even in
mhm,
this one, right? In the celebration,
mhm,
Finderby actually brought props onto the set. He used special lighting,
mm.
so he's essentially, not following the rules that he himself wrote, right? And even in the Idiots, he used LBT used background music. Har-
Idiots was Lars von Trier.
yeah,
Yeah.
so he used background music in that, which is one of the rules. You can't use that.
No, the rules is against non-diegetic music. That
Yeah,
means you
so
can't edit
background music is of
sound
course
into the
non-diegetic.
film.
Yeah, yeah. He said, I mean, doing it in post-production.
But if
So of
it's
course,
playing on a
no, 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 it
mute,
was done in edit.
boombox
Mm-hmm.
somewhere, then it's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, all that is fine. Okay, you can tweak the rules a bit and all of
Mhm,
that. All that is fine. But ultimately, the idea of the movement itself, right? The rules itself, it doesn't hold up for me. So I mean, following these sort of arbitrary rules, right? How does it guarantee any sort of increase in quality of the film or any reduction in the superficiality or increase in realism?
mhm,
So, and it's also kind of dismissive of the impact that other craftsmen involved in the making of the film has on a film, right? Apart from the actor and the director.
mhm,
That is one more thing. Now, the idea that it impose a set of rules and counterintuitively those restrictions free you in a way, that
mhm,
is fine. That I'm partly on board with that idea, but the 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 realization of that idea, I do not find it in this movement. I find it better in the Iranian New Wave, where they
mhm,
work with so many restrictions and uh, they work with them, or they sidestep them in ways which are completely ingenious, and that's a movement I am really a fan of, not this one.
mhm.
So yeah, that's how I view this movement, and
I
this
want to
became.
respond to what you
Mhm.
said, but before that, Mohammed, do you what do you think about the rules that is said?
Dogma 95, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think that is
it's completely if I if I am given the chance to make a film with these rules, I will definitely not go for it
okay?
because it's highly impossible, Baba. That is what I feel. But what Arnav has said rightly, it's not this condition. Like Satyajit Ray, he had many financial restrictions, financial constraints, and what to say, actors, lot of those kind of conditions, or those kind of, what to say, restriction may lead to a innovative filmmaking. No, budget and actors, lot of things, resources. uh, it may lead to a innovation, improvising what we have and bringing, you will definitely bring out a wonderful film. But this kind of like, you should hold a camera in your hand. uh, I, these are, what to say, I'm not going to sign any of them. Basically, I don't prefer this kind, and I don't believe in Dogma 95. Though some may have come up with films, wonderful films, that may be a luck, uh, but ultimately, no. I would say no.
So I want to counter Aroonav's opinion here, and not to say you're wrong, but I just want to share a counterpoint to what you suggest. In my case, I think that the rules are quite innovative. I know they're fully arbitrary. I'm completely on board and aware of that. And but it's the exercise which seems a little silly to me. The idea that you're going to put some rules down and then only operate within these constraints. That is the silly part, not the rules part, and I'll explain why. So, for first things, to talk about Dogma 95 as a film movement and why it is or is not important. I'm not a fan of the films they came up with either, to be honest. And I can see the value they bring, but it's not something that I would call great cinema. Personal opinion, if I can say so. That said, I think the movement itself was extremely influential to filmmakers all around the world. And I was just looking at the list again on the side, and let's go over some of these points, and I'll talk about why they're so important. Shooting must be done on location. So this was out of the frustration that a lot of costume dramas and all these things, they use studios, and they have a very convenient way of working. Um, in a way, the set is permanently lit, and they just keep shooting multiple takes after multiple takes over there. Whereas when you shoot on location, the sunlight that you get at, let's say, 11 o'clock in the morning will not be the same at 11:15. There might be some clouds, or there might be some change in the weather. So you have a lot more limitations to get the take as efficiently as possible on location, whereas on set. So, and I think we can all agree that when films are shot in real locations, it just looks better, right? It's more believable, it's more immersive, and more engaging. Um, so Peter Jackson had a very interesting quote in the behind the scenes of Lord of the Rings. In the second film, The Two Towers, there is one scene. I forget the name of the character, but there is one lady. It's a very simple shot. She walks out of the castle, and she stands at the entrance near the stairs, and some handkerchief flies around. And she has to give a very sad look about some loss she's going through, and that one scene, right? In the film, I think it's maybe 30 to 45 seconds long in the film, But for that scene, the construction to put the set up, it took them more than I forget if it's a month or more than a month, something like that. And it might sound ridiculous, right? That you're doing so much hard work to get a 45-second shot. Is that even realistic anymore? But his quote was that the performance that I got from her on that scene, I don't think I would have ever got on a green screen. So when you shoot in real places with real locations, I guess the actors also feel a little more involved. They also believe that, you know what, I'm really a princess. I'm not just an acting student who graduated 2 years ago. It gives them that sense of grounding which is necessary to deliver a more believable performance. So yeah, shooting on location, I that is getting more and more adopted even in mainstream films. Sound stages are used, I guess, mostly for VFX shots these days. But if and when possible, even blockbusters are choosing to shoot on location these days. Sound must never be produced apart from images or vice versa. This is a big change which happened in Hollywood long ago, but it happened in Indian films only some 15 years ago or so, if I remember correctly. All the dialogue in the film used to be ADR, recorded after the edit. That means on set they would have a scratch recording, or sometimes not even that. But after the edit is done, the actors would go back in and dub the voice or dub the dialogues again. Which is why if you look at older films, you can see that the performance that you're seeing and the voice you're hearing are not exactly the same. There's a small difference. But more recently, thanks to sound engineers really pushing for it, films are starting to record audio on set or on location. And this is a little more challenging because you have to make sure there's no sound anywhere else except the actor speaking. So maybe you guys know this, maybe you don't, but I'll just say it anyways. When you're on a film set, on location or in a studio, as soon as the assistant director says roll sound, then says roll camera, no matter where you are, what you're doing, if you're eating something or if you're talking on the phone, you stop where you're going and stand there until the director says cut. It doesn't matter if you're climbing the stairs, you stop there. You do not move. It's basically like the freeze frame game that we used to play as kids. We do that on set. As soon as the sound is rolling, nobody moves. Because the mic is so sensitive that it doesn't matter if you're some 50 feet away. If you're walking, the mic will pick it up. And it's very difficult to take sounds out of a recording. You can add sounds to a recording, that's easy, but taking sounds out is challenging, in some case not even possible. So they want the actor's performance audio to be as clean as possible. So it is challenging, especially if you're shooting on location. You don't know what's going to happen, right? And especially if you shoot in India, there's going to be at least 100 or 150 people surrounding your set just to take a look at the actor. That will happen. Then there might be an ambulance which goes by. There might be a plane that goes by. So all these things that you have to do retakes to get a good clean take, and that costs more money to do, or costs more production time, and the budget goes up. But guess what? Now it is a standard. All films these days mostly record sync sound. Very few films do dub sounds. Yeah, very few films do ADR. Then the camera must be handheld, no movement or immobility. This is a big one. So this is 95, 96, somewhere around there, right? Same around similar time, um, the Dardenne brothers came out with Rosetta, which was their big ticket festival film, and it's arguable that Rosetta basically put the Dardenne brothers on the map, and that film was so important. It it was such a popular film that a lot of filmmakers started imitating the style of that. I would not be surprised if the Dardenne brothers were inspired by Dogma films.
But handheld has been in vogue for quite a long time, right? Not
Handel has been there, but so the
so.
intention,
Hmm.
at least what I've learned about modern filmmaking, the the idea that handheld uh, camera is used for realistic films and lockdown cameras used for you know sci-fi, fantasy, and all this is very new. It's not an old concept. It actually happened quite recently. So filmmakers have been a lot of filmmakers st- started out with a documentary background back then in the 80s and 90s. That was one of the way to practice filmmaking without spending a lot of money. So I'm trying to remember. Meera Nair is definitely one of those people. And do you remember any
Yes.
other filmmakers who
So
did?
handheld, I mean, first came into fashion, not fashion, but was first introduced into sort of what you say mainstream filmmaking was in during the advent of the French New Wave, right? Where they were rallying against quote unquote cinema du papa, grandfather cinema, right?
Mhm.
That's the period when the same motivations were at play, right? They were fed up with Hollywood's mode of production. They wanted to move away from that.
No,
They
no,
didn't
no.
want.
French New Wave is the opposite, actually. French New Wave people were love with film noir.
Yeah, yeah. Not
So
that is
they
a
were
different issue. They,
basically
yeah, yeah,
trying to
absolutely.
recreate film noir in French.
That is fine,
And
but the mode of production, right? The Hollywood mode of production, they were never fans of that. At least the left bank, right? Varda, your Godard, your Rene, they were not fans of that. Truffaut and others, they were on the other camp. That's fine. Truffaut, Roma, they were on the other camp. So if you see Godard's early works, right, starting from Breathless, handheld will be there in pretty much every film.
so this notion that you know films with a more realistic tone, whether it's in the acting or the tone of the film, must be done in handheld is actually quite recent, because they are trying to borrow clues from documentary filmmaking. What can we do to make this feel like a documentary and not like a feature film? What can we do to make the audience feel like they are really witnessing this unfold in real time, rather than constructing, deconstructing, time to uh, give a sense of uh, what do you call this, montage, right?
Mhm.
So
But what is happening since the 90s? The sort of rebirth of handheld in the mainstream uh,
mhm.
arena, right? That is kind of reinventing the wheel. This has been done long before that.
No, so I'm not saying handheld is new. I'm talking about the association of handheld with realism,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
During the 90s, yeah, Dozen Brothers was a big reason of that. Yes, because of
that
Rosetta's
is one. And then
popularity.
in Hollywood, Paul Greengrass made the Born Identity.
Mhm.
That film disturbed every action film director in Hollywood. It's so much that you can argue that James Bond became a replica of uh, the Born Identity. Mission Impossible became a
Was it
replica of Born.
Identity or Ultimatum? Not
Born
sure which.
Identity is one. Uh, Born.
Because I mean, from what I
Supremacy is
remember of
second.
those
Ultimatum
films,
is third.
yeah, Ultimatum, I distinctly remember handheld shots, not in the Identity. I'm not sure. I have to
Identity,
revisit.
definitely. Identity, I can was the first one to do this. Because Identity came out in 2001, and then all the replicas came out in mid 2000s. James Bond and Mission Impossible came out in 2006. So it gave filmmakers such a complex that they've made the action feel so visceral and real that we can't use our traditional tricks anymore. We have to go with handheld and we have to make it more believable. And now that has become basically the language of Hollywood filmmaking. All films are short handheld now, all the time. In fact, funny enough, around mid 2000s, just when Hollywood was trying to imitate Paul Greengrass. Paul Greengrass also made a really good film about the 9/11 incident. Can you remember the name of the film? Flight 11 or something like that.
United 93.
United 93. Yeah,
Oh.
United 93. So that again, it's a very dry film. It's painfully dry in the sense that it almost seems like a dialogue by dialogue recreation of what might have happened. No filmmaking tricks, or at least that's what Paul wants you to think. He is subconsciously manipulating you a lot in that film, and ridiculous amount of handheld work. For most of the film, you see office scenes, but all handheld. So, and that film does a great job. So, the Paul Greengrass style became the norm in Hollywood. Now, funny enough, mid 2000s, uh, stabilization techniques were becoming smaller in size. They became small enough that you could someone invented this thing. So have you seen the podcaster mic or the radio mic hanging around on strings? The way it hangs on a string. Have you seen that? The mic mount the radio jockeys use.
Yeah.
So basically, the idea is if you accidentally touch the mic will not touch the bass, and there'll be no sound from that accident. It will shake a little bit, but it won't generate any sound because the mic is basically hanging on thread. They came up with a similar system in the mid 2000s that you can hang the camera system on multiple string like things and put it in a dome enclosure or ball enclosure and stick it to a helicopter. It was light enough that you could carry it in a helicopter. And second biggest innovation of that era was that you could use a digital camera, a small digital camera, or even a large digital camera, doesn't matter. But the magazine, the film magazine, which is the biggest component of a film camera, there used to be. By the way, I should probably say this also. The way digital films were shot in early 2000s is that you had a digital magazine, and the digital magazine was basically tape. There were no SSDs back then, and hard drives were very delicate. You cannot take them on set to shoot film, and the only other option was CF cards or P2 cards, which were very expensive and had very little memory. So it's not enough storage to shoot a film. So the option was tape, and there were 2-3 formats of digital tape, but the most popular format which was used in Hollywood was SR tape. And one of the innovations that came up in the mid 2000s is that you can connect your digital magazine through a cable, and your camera sensor lens can be separate and your magazine can be separate. And that is like mind-blowing stuff for cinematographers back then, because the magazine has to be physically attached to the camera at all times, right? A film magazine, at least. If the film is not attached to the camera, how do you shoot? But with digital, you can just connect it with a wire. So that means now your camera unit is 50% smaller in size. And with these two innovations combined, Planet Earth happened. And if you notice the progression of the Planet Earth films, there's Planet Earth, there's Planet Earth 2, there is oceans, and there's life, and yeah, there's a bunch of films in that series. With each iteration, they get more and more cinematic, and their version of cinematic is very different. They want very stable shots, and they want, the beautiful techno crane movements that you associate with film. And so the opposite effect is happening now. Instead of documentaries being, in the moment and shaky and unpredictable, documentaries are giving you poetic, cinematic, smooth movements and very carefully framed compositions. And Hollywood, even on the biggest level, whatever film came out last week, you can go see, it will all be handheld all the time. So the opposite has happened. So yeah, this camera being handled, it's also had a great impact in the industry for better or worse. The film must be in color, special lighting not acceptable. Okay, now this is the weirdest one, right? Special lighting not acceptable. But I'll even fight for this, because through 90s to now, or even 70s to now, or even beginning of color film, 50s, 60s to now, the greatest difference, there's been two great differences. One is the film stock always improves every decade, for a fact. Except now we've, plateaued on the film stock improvement, because there's no further development on film stock anymore. There's only one company standing. But 60s film and 70s film look a little better. The film stock is getting more sensitive to light, and the film grain is getting smaller, and you get more detail, more contrast, all these things. So that is happening because the film stock is getting more sensitive, and because it's getting giving you more dynamic range, you have to use less light, and that frees up the cinematographer a lot. So if you see behind the scenes footage of Sound of Music or any film from the 1920s and 30s, they used to be on they basically worked in an oven, if I can be honest, because those lights, those tungsten lights, are extremely hot, and after every take, you must have seen actors getting powdered up again by the makeup artist. That happened because they were sweating all the time. Everybody was sweating all the time. There's no ACs back then, so it was ridiculously difficult way to make films. And a lot of the films, until I would say till before 70s, it's very hard to find night scenes in films, because film stock was simply not good enough to shoot at night in a real location. You might see studio night scenes, but it was very difficult to find on-location night scenes. If you did find on-location night scenes, it will not be a small budget production, because you need permits, and you need a lot of lights, you need generators, you need crew for every piece of equipment. The costs add up. So because of the film stock getting more sensitive, and you getting more performance with less lights, you you use less equipment on set, and by doing that, the films start looking more natural. And there has been a constant evolution in cinematography towards a more natural look. And especially, again, going back to Rosetta, that film basically looked like a documentary to most people. And if you can make that look so good, then uh, the question is, why can't you do that with mainstream films? And the current trend with all the big cinematographers, Roger Deakins or who else, Claudio Miranda, and all these guys, what they do is they light the location and not the set, right? So let's say it is 2 p.m. in New York. So they'll calculate if this is a New York tower, then what is the height of the building and what is the angle of the light. Based on that, they'll bring in a crane and they'll put huge light banks outside the room, and basically done. Lighting is done. They let the light do rest of the work, bounce around, and and wherever they need more contrast, they'll just flag it. So in a way, they are still using special lighting, but it is done with the way that it is replicating natural light. And a big influence of this has also been Terrence Malick's films. He's famous for shooting with natural light. If you've seen Terrence Malick's films, they all look very beautiful and very natural because he's not using light on set. He just shoots with whatever is there, natural light. But that does not mean they don't use equipment. They will still bounce the light. They'll still flag the light. They'll still have cards available. They'll still have ways to make the shot look good. Because you and I can go with a DSLR and shoot the same location, and it will not look like a Terrence Malick film. So, yeah, special lighting not acceptable. I'll give them that because it has helped cinematography go in a more natural direction. I'll give them that. Then,
So, I mean, the point that you're making, right, that these rules sort of found their way into mainstream cinema or influenced cinema in later decades, right? But the reason for that was essentially technological advancements, right? It's not because they were, influenced by Dogma 95 or something like that, right? Or they were looking to do something like this. Just because it became easier because of new technologies.
no, like you said, right? Handheld was possible in the 60s, right?
Yeah,
And
but it was still, it was not something that mainstream cinema chose to do because
there
it
was no
was not.
language with handheld. For example,
Yeah,
when do
it
you
was
use
not really
handheld and
steady, right?
when
It
do
was
you
very
use?
jerky and everything, right? So with the advent of Steadicam and better quality cameras and stuff, all of that, it became more presentable, right? That's the change which happened, right?
No,
Which is what.
the filmmaker's intention. At what point, in which scene do I use handheld and which scene do I use lockdown? That's something when you're reading the script, you have to decide that how am I going to set up the scene? Is it going to be on handheld? Is it going to be on a tripod? Is it going to be on a dolly crane? Or is it going to be on a Jimmy Jib?
Absolutely, absolutely. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is that if we didn't have better technology
hmm
in comparison with what we had in the 60s or even in the 90s when these rules were being written, people would still not do it, right? If the technology
Okay, I'll
hadn't
give you
advanced.
another example. Right, drones as a technology came out around 2010, if I'm not wrong. Right, 2009 or 2010 experiments were going on. By 2012, drones were ready for commercial filmmaking. They had extremely large custom-made drones which could, easily lift a camera package. So now we have drones as a filmmaking tool available to us today. But which scene do you shoot with a drone in a film? Right now, filmmakers have no idea. Randomly, they'll put a drone shot here and there, but is there some storytelling logic that demands a drone shot? So far, there's nothing. But with handheld, it realism. When you want a character drama, you do handheld. When you want an action scene, you do handheld. To make people, believe what is going on. That is when you do handheld.
Yeah,
That
absolutely. So those are
that is
choices
new.
which are always there with the filmmakers, right? So, I mean, a filmmaker
No, the
always has.
language of handheld came about fairly recently. That's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah, maybe in
Just like we
mainstream cinema,
don't
but
have a filmmaking language for drones right now.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe in Hollywood, I would say, yeah, but yeah, it has always been around since the 60s
Hmm.
in different national cinemas around the world. You take
Hmm.
French New Wave, you take Czech New Wave, you take Yugoslav Black Wave. It has been there everywhere,
Hmm.
or even in Iranian New Wave also. Handheld has been there. Yeah,
Hmm.
maybe Hollywood. That's what I'm saying. That Hollywood caught onto it because it became more presentable with the advent of Steadicam. There was no other really, you know, uh, you know. Uh, principled artistic stand they were taking. It just
Hmm.
became convenient. That's it. Hollywood is just that.
So the whole idea behind these 10 rules or 12 rules that they have, in a way, and I've told you this privately, and I think it's worth repeating in the discussion, that the three of us study films, right? We watch a lot of films, we understand them, we dissect them, we discuss them, and that's how we learn about filmmaking. And in my case, I've read a lot of books about filmmaking, so I have some background over there as well. But in the end, three of us, none of us have made a film, right? So what they are doing is really understanding what filmmaking should be in the future. Fine, we have so many rules and so many things to do, that you need lights, you need set, and you need costumes, and you need expensive equipment. Question is, does that make your film better? They are trying to understand the core uh, elements of a film that really affect you, which is the performance and the storytelling. And this has been something uh, I've been telling anyone who wants to go to film school, that film school focus so much on equipment, and it's really not that important. Whatever you need to learn about filmmaking from an equipment standpoint, you can learn in a month just by being an assistant on set with a good filmmaker. But storytelling is something that you have to earn on your own. And I say earn and not learn, because just knowing storytelling techniques is not good enough. If knowing storytelling techniques was enough, then directors would never make a bad film. It still has to come from a lot of practice and testing and rewriting and all these things. So if you learn storytelling, it's very easy to justify your decisions, right? And that's what we are talking about with these rules as well. That you read a screenplay and you decide, how do I present this shot on screen? Once you understand what emotion you're going for or what effect it has to build in the film, then it's easy to cross out all the options available to you. But if you don't know what you're doing, and if you don't really understand uh, your story very well, or you will be lost on set. I so in my student days, the most confidence and the most cockiest of the students in the class would always have the hardest time on set, because they're so busy proving to everyone that I know all the tricks and techniques in all domains, right? I know all the model numbers of all the lights, and I know uh, how many bags of sand to keep for every C stand. They know everything. Great. And now you have everything available to you. You have the equipment, you have the people, and you have the actors. What do you do with it? That is where they fail, because if they don't have a vision for storytelling, then all the equipment and all the budget does not help.
Okay.
Yeah. And to be honest, the bad looking films or the low budget, like films which flop and people hate, are made with the same equipment that the big budget films are made with. And there are films which look great on a tight budget, and there are films which look terrible on a big budget. So how efficiently you can manage your resources directly correlates with how confident you are in your storytelling skills. So I'm sure you guys know, Lord of the Rings was made on a budget of 90 million per film. Jurassic Park was made something around 60 to 65 million for the film. Even if you count inflation, modern blockbusters, which cost 300 million per film, 250, 300 million per film, is absurd. Makes no sense. So I won't say the name of the film, but since I work in VFX and I have a lot of friends in the VFX industry, there's one film in recent years which had two endings ready to go, or maybe even more than two. I don't remember, but they did all the VFX for all the shots, and they had two very different endings ready to go, and they kept doing screen tests with random audiences to see which one audiences liked, and depending on the response, they chose the best one. So there's a lot of mismanagement on big films these days. You don't need this much money uh, to make a film. So yeah, so I went on multiple tangents, but coming back to the point is that they were really questioning what is really necessary to tell a great story. And even if you discard all the rules, you can't deny the answer is correct, that good storytelling and good acting is the foundation of a great film. That is the answer they arrived at. You may disagree with these 10 rules, and I think these 10 rules have helped the culture of filmmaking at large, but what they arrived at is completely sensible. In fact, it's necessary. So like Aroonav said, right, every film movement is basically born out of frustration, that we don't like how things are, and we need to do something different. It happened with French New Wave, and it happened with Czech New Wave, and it happened with New Hollywood of the 60s and 70s. You need that. Uh, you need that frustration in a way, in every generation.
Yep.
It
So
is
yeah,
necessary.
that's something that I agree with. That
Yeah.
again, like I said, the motivations were all very good. I am completely on board with that.
Yeah.
Just not on board with these arbitrary rules, right? I mean, I don't feel that these rules guarantee any sort of change in quality of
They
film
don't.
or
They don't.
Hmm.
But do you agree that great acting and great storytelling
Yeah,
are,
yeah, absolutely. So
yeah,
I believe that you can
they were
spend
done
1
in
billion.
soup back then,
Yeah.
right? They were some 19, 20 years old. I don't know how old they were.
Yeah, just out of film school, like 24, 25, I think, somewhere
And
around that.
they're very
So,
cocky when they say that we came up with this list in half an hour. So it is completely arbitrary. I will underline that again and again. It was an arbitrary set of rules, but it just so happened that the solution that they arrived on was sensible.
hmm.
It made sense, and it made sense to a lot of filmmakers, and that's why it
No,
this
that
movement may
part,
have died. But
yeah, that part I
it,
won't agree with. That it influenced a lot of people and all of that. If it had, we would have seen much more or better films coming out of this movement, which never happened.
no,
It
I'm
died
not
out.
saying people got influenced to make dogma films.
Hmm.
They pick and choose what they like, and they adopt into their own work.
Hmm. Yeah, in that sense, yeah, of
Hmm.
course,
Yeah, yeah.
that is always a. But I mean, that is always a constant, right? You can spend $1 billion
Hmm.
on a film. You can make a bad film. You can make a
Hmm.
great film in the studio framework as well. A costume drama entirely made in a studio. Let's say Barry Lyndon, right? Kubrick's film, great film.
Hmm.
So you can't say that just because it's been made in the Hollywood mode of production, it's a
No,
bad film, right?
no,
So
I would never
yeah,
trash
absolutely,
mainstream
yeah.
films in
Mhm.
general.
Yeah, absolutely.
I,
So even in this, right, even if you impose a certain set of rules like this, that doesn't necessarily guarantee you a good film.
it does
So
not. No.
yeah, so that's my point. That regardless of these rules, whatever they have done, so see, this is all in tune with his personality, Lars von Trier's personality, right? He's a provocateur. He likes to make
Basically.
big claims and all of that. So.
Hmm.
Uh, so this particular movement, I mean, the success or the popularity of this movement, right, it has little to do with aesthetics, right? It has to do with marketing, how they presented it, right? Attempting to create something cohesive and to form a national film identity around that, right? That they marketed it really well. That's how I see it. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't see any major impact of the movement as such. I do not really consider it as a movement as well. It's a gimmick.
No, it is a gimmick, but uh, it has led to some successful.
I mean, regardless of this movement's existence, it would have happened anyways. I don't see any contribution of this movement on whatever has happened.
Yeah. So okay, that's another argument for a different day, to be honest, because the same can be said about any great leap forward. So if you go to sound and film, you could argue that what's the Al Johnson film, piano something, jazz singer, not piano singer. So if jazz singer was not the first sound film, then something else would have been the first sound film. But sound film was inevitable. You could argue that, or you
Mm.
could say that if what's the name, Wizard of Oz was not the first color film, something else would have been.
Yeah, yeah.
If Toy Story was not the first CG film,
Mm.
something else would have been.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, to some degree there is some truth in that, but it's not inevitable. I'll tell you why. Because a new technology does not mean that the world is waiting to adopt it. Hmm? So it is always a big risk when you introduce a new technology, because you are destabilizing the norm, right? This is how things were done, and this is how we are doing it. Now you have the onus on you as a filmmaker to convince your audience that this is indeed the better way to watch films. And not just the audience, but also other filmmakers also should be tempted that I wish I could make films like Sound of Music or Jazz Singer. They should also feel convinced. Otherwise, it will not work. And there are many examples of it not working. So, Smellovision as a technology came up, didn't go anywhere. There's multiple large format film formats which had come, VistaVision and forget all the names, but those didn't take off. because they were expensive to do, and it's arguable whether it made a big difference in the film at all. Then 3D has come and gone at least 2 or 3 times in film history so far. So, and currently we are debating about VR. VR as a technology has been around since 2011, and people have been making short films in it. Nobody's made a feature film, but short films have been made. So, unless it falls in the hands of the right director and can present a new language of storytelling in VR, no one gives a shit about VR. Film festivals have been featuring VR for a couple years now, but yeah, I still am not seeing mass adoption of VR as a film technology. Young kids are not running to film school and demanding that a VR curriculum has to be taught. They're not asking for any of that. What they are asking for is, game development courses. I know that because I'm, part of a university, as a consultant. So the kids want to learn storytelling in a video game format. They're coming to film schools and demanding that.
Yeah, video game is the next frontier, absolutely.
No, is it though? We don't know that yet.
It will be. I consider it as it, yeah.
So yeah, a new technology does not mean that it is just impending. It can come and go and it can fail. But Toy Story did such a great job of telling a story that we all cared about, that we forgot about the technology. And people only revisit a film if they really love it. And I've made this argument for many years that people only sing praises of good films, technical praises of good films. So when they say, "Oh, this film has great sound," or "This film has great special effects," it's always for films which are actually, well received and highly rated. There are many bad films with great special effects. There are many bad animated films with really high animation quality. They don't get mentioned by film historians. They don't get mentioned by audience. And that is a bias people have, that unless they connect it to the story, they will not revisit it. If they don't revisit it, they will not find things to appreciate. So I remember mid 2000s there was a animation film called Robots. Not a good film at all, but on a technical level it was fantastic. And I thought somebody will bring it up so I went to university for animation. Thought somebody will bring it up and talk about it, because a lot of the mechanisms that they came up with were quite unique. No, nobody. Instead, they discussed films like Bolt, which had recently come out and were getting good reviews. It's obvious. So if Toy Story was not a good film, people would assume that, oh, this film flopped because it was a CG film, and no producer would ever risk money into a CG film again. But Toy Story did fantastic business. Shrek came and Shrek did even better business. So producers thought, you know what, 2D animation is dead. Now all the money is in CG, and they abandoned or disbanded the 2D departments of all the animation studios. It's completely stupid. It makes no sense, but that's how they saw it. If Shrek flopped and Toy Story flopped, maybe we would still be seeing 2D animation today. Same for Wizard of Oz, same for, Jazz Singer or any other big technology film. Avatar, for example. People really enjoyed those films. That's why that tech stayed. Otherwise, there's no guarantee any tech will be adopted. So, yeah, I mean, just this one man's opinion. It doesn't have to be a fact, but that's what I think, at least. I want to bring up the Indian segment of this film. Uh, how do you guys feel about Bombay being projected as the worst place in the world, or the most miserable place in the world, as they say it?
There was nothing wrong in stating the fact, and moreover, apart from mentioning that it is a horrific place and horrific condition, nothing was shown in the movie as such. Uh, if they had shown prostitutes behind the bars with unhealthy conditions, living condition with like sharing uh, rooms, if they had shown it, it would have been what to say, uh, stressing on the stressing that we Indians have such a bad reputation. Um,
He did not show
it,
that because it's probably not allowed to, right?
huh,
I don't think the people who work in that industry will allow such things to be filmed, right?
yeah,
They
yeah, yeah.
probably
I think
work with some
one
gangs or they
documentary
work with
came.
some police.
Mhm. I think Amoli. I don't know this documentary I watched. Uh,
Oh, Aroonav is leaving.
do-
Okay, okay,
uh,
Aroonav.
Hey, bye guys.
Okay, see
yeah,
you. Bye.
yeah. Bye, bye, bye. So he did. If it had been shown, no, it would have been more. It would have what to say generated a conversation in our Indian people that yeah, we have a bad reputation. We should work on eradicating such conditions.
Hmm.
And he also mentions in the movie that he is not against uh, prostitutes. It's about the horrific condition they are
Hmm.
in there. Now the again we need not bring this conversation that is prostitution should be legalized in India too, like
Hmm.
other foreigners. Though
Hmm.
that's a very different conversation, and
Hmm.
I don't want to bring it up. But overall, uh,
Hmm.
whatever he has shown was fact, and it was challenging for a filmmaker, like how to shoot in that condition because your
Hmm.
morality has been challenged there.
Hmm. Okay, so I have a different take on this. Maybe
Hmm.
because I am from Bombay and born and raised in that city. Maybe I had a different reaction to it.
Oh, have you
But
seen Red Lake Street District?
no, I've not seen it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So uh, again, my point is nothing to do with the location itself. It's a larger point about um, what uh, what they choose to shoot and why they choose to shoot it. So
Hmm.
yeah, so maybe it might be a personal reaction because I am from that city, but I'm
No, because
generally like,
I watched one video. I
yeah,
wanted to have first-hand experience of the people who have seen that place or visited,
yeah,
what they felt.
yeah.
So one video I saw that he mentions that prostitutes are standing in the rain. The
Hmm.
area itself is suffocating.
Hmm.
So first-hand
No,
experience of that area.
it,
Hmm.
I don't deny any of that. I'm sure they put in horrible conditions. Is no doubt.
Hmm.
Because if I'm not wrong, a lot of these ladies are trafficked, right? They're not there by personal choice. They're there because they're trapped in some sort of.
Yeah,
So again,
trafficking
my
they
point
call
is
it.
related to filmmaking, not regarding any of this.
Okay, sorry.
So in general, I'm very harsh towards um, filmmakers who rely on something I like to call poverty porn. In the sense, they'll go to places and shoot uh, just people in difficult situations and conditions, uh, and present it to the European or American audience as a shock factor. So I take big issue with that because yes, there is poverty in the world, but uh, are you trying to make a point beyond that? That is the question. So, and it's not specific to Bombay. I would say this even for films which are shot in African countries, and uh, only shoot the most shocking content over there and present it to the Western world, or any or the world in general. What that does is it shows, if you show poor people as a form of shock value content, it shows how little you know about the world. Yes, we know poverty exists, we know dirty locations exist. It's a fact. It's a shameful fact, but it is a fact. And to be honest, I'm not even concerned with the reputation thing, right? I know some people get very offended for a reputations thing, that they are showing India in a bad light, or showing Bombay in a bad light. I don't care about that. If it's there, you show it. It's fine. But do you have something more to say beyond that? That's what I'm interested in. So, do you want to talk about how this happened, or why is
Yeah.
this ongoing? Why has this not stopped? Or who's gaining from this? Do you have something to say about it? Otherwise, what's the point of making a film, right?
True, true.
Have you seen Salam Bombay? Mira
Oh,
Naya
Salam
Salam.
Bombay I saw.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I saw it.
that film, she
And
she
after seeing that, yeah. Please go ahead.
no, tell me.
Yeah, that the boy actor, no,
Yeah.
he's in Bangalore and he's a auto driver.
Hmm.
So they showed that the movie hasn't changed the boy's life. It had no any impact on his life.
It didn't have an
So
impact on
people,
his life, but if I'm not wrong, they did set up a foundation from the the film's account, and the foundation
Mhm.
is still being maintained. So it has helped other kids not live on the street. So
Oh,
the fact
okay.
that he's an auto driver, it's great
Mhm.
news. He's making, he has a job, he makes money and lives, has a family. It's a wonderful
Yeah,
thing. He's not on the street anymore.
yeah.
So I don't know if he's being helped by the foundation in any way, but I know other kids have benefited from that foundation. And so
Mhm.
anyway, that's a different topic. So going back to um, films in Salam Babi, they show you this world, right? I believe that also takes place in the same red light district of Bombay.
Oh, is it?
So I think so, right?
Um,
In the film, like
no.
they sell one of the girls to the pimps, and that
Oh,
is one of
okay,
the
okay.
plot point in the
Was it
film.
in real location
I
in
don't know
the
if
red?
it's real location,
Okay,
uh,
okay.
but at least in the story, it is supposed to be the red light district.
Oh,
So yeah, that movie shows you a really ugly side of Bombay, right?
true, true. Very
But
ugly.
it also shows you how things got here, or how thing what is going to happen in the future. It's a very depressing thing to say, but it says it doesn't matter. You arrest people, you know you try to help people. It doesn't matter. In the end, someone else will become the new chai power. It's a relentless cycle. It's a self-feeding prophecy. So if the film has nothing to say about what it is presenting, then what is the film made for? And that is the question I ask every time a film which is uh, featuring poverty in a shocking manner, whether it's from Philippines, or whether it's from India or from Africa, it doesn't matter. fine, you're doing something brave by taking your camera to these locations, but what next? Everybody with a cell phone can do that. You're making a film. Do you have something to say about it? So, and maybe I personally take offense to Bombay being called the most miserable place on earth. That is on a personal ground. But even if he decided that, okay, Bombay is the most miserable place on earth, I'm going to prove it to you, then yeah, there would be something interesting. And I've put a interview of the production coordinator in the booklet, right? And I did that for a very specific reason, because for many years I did not know the backstory of how the Bombay segment was shot. Finally, last week I found out, and it doesn't change anything I know. Sorry, it doesn't change my perception of the film at all. In fact, it just cements my belief that it's doing shock value for the sake of shock value, and it's not saying anything at all with it. So in the interview, the production coordinator says that few years ago we were drinking beers and getting drunk and talking about poetry, and this guy suddenly says, show me something shocking, show me something brutal, so show me the real underground parts of Bombay where nobody else will go. And he's like, I know exactly where to take you, and he takes him to the red light district. And yeah, well, I'm guessing whatever they talked about must be happening, right? Like, people put in really horrible conditions, living conditions, and there's no way out. So his whole motivation to go to that region was for shock value, because he was drunk. He wanted something exciting. So he's bored of the civilized and polite lifestyle he has in Denmark. So he comes to Bombay for some, everyone knows Bombay is a crowded place and completely bizarre. Anything can happen at any time. That kind of city. So he's on Bombay for an adventure. So instead of going to the jungle, he has come to Bombay. And instead of looking at
wild animals,
he's going to look at people.
Yeah, wild people doing horrible things to other humans.
And I'm not even denying that such an ugly part of the world exists. It does exist, but what about it? Why did they end up in such a situation, or what can be done about it, or why is nothing being done about it? Is there corruption there, or is there criminal and police cooperation there? We do something with that camera, say something interesting, shock the world that way, embarrass the authorities into taking action. But the filmmakers are just going there, shooting something shocking, and then coming back to win awards. I will not take them seriously at all. I don't care about the reputation and image thing, but like you said, if it's there, it's the truth. You can't deny it.
Yeah, I also find now I can see the contradiction. He mentions the horrific place, but in the movie, he doesn't show anything horrific.
Yeah, because there's probably gangsters over there.
Oh, okay.
Right. Or maybe there's police over there. Who knows? And these guys, they have to get a permit, and who's going to give you a permit to shoot over there?
True.
And these ladies are trafficked, right? Like they've been kidnapped in some places. If their face is shown on video, maybe the family members will recognize
them. Yeah, they may come to reclaim
there's so many
them.
things that can go wrong for these people. They will not allow them to be sure for any video shooting over there. So yeah, he chose Bombay because of this horrible situation, right? That these ladies are trapped and they're being forced to live in squalor. Why did he not show that? Why did he not choose one of these actresses as one of the performers in the film? Because the perfect human has two parts, right? Male and female. Why not choose one of these ladies as one of the characters? There's no rule saying that you cannot choose a second actor. In every other segment, there's a female actor, but for this film, there's no female actor.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my rant about the whole Bombay segment.
I think he could have chosen Bangladesh too.
So it doesn't matter. So whether you choose Bombay, you choose Bangladesh, or you choose
The movie didn't justify his statement that it is horrific or it is.
Mohammed, you can go to Paris and you can find slums.
But I think that they have better conditions for prostitutes.
No, I'm not talking about prostitution. I'm talking about like poverty and people living in difficult conditions.
In
And
Paris.
in Paris, in London, yes, you will find slums.
But if I compare poverty in India
No,
to that Paris, definitely there will be difference.
see, for you, that slum will be something unique and new to look at. For them, the Indian slums are something unique to look at. And condition-wise, I guess the conditions in Indian slums are absolutely horrible. So there's no denying that the, this is not the way a city should function. No denying that. But if you're just gonna come here, take a few photographs and then go back and say, "Oh my God, can you believe this is how the world is?" It just shows how ignorant they are of the world. The rest of the world knew for the last 50 years, but these guys are finding out today, so they're making a documentary about it. So it's you remember the page one New York Times documentary
Yeah.
we did, right? And the senior journalist completely grilled those new guys. Saying,
Yeah.
fine, you guys went to which country did they go to? I forgot.
Some African country, I think.
Yeah, they went to an African country. I
Where
can't remember the name.
they eat the baby, something, eating baby or something,
Yeah,
human flesh, cannibalism.
He goes to some African country without a plan. Okay, they don't even have an agenda. Like, what are you there to shoot? Are you there for interview? Are you there to, you know, take particular footage of some? No, he's just gone there as a tourist and recorded whatever he has.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things he recorded was people pooping on the beach, and he said the senior journalist asked him that I'm on YouTube, I'm watching your video, and there is human poop in front of me on the beach. And fine, that's there. But what about it? What are you trying to say? Do you have something else to add, or do you just want to show that this exists? And he had no answer because he had nothing to say. Why
So
are
they
people?
failed to sympathize with the conditions.
These people do not sympathize with anybody.
Then why do they make that video
No,
out of this?
it is shock value. Oh my God,
Oh,
can you believe this? That is what is going on in the heads. So that African nation, if the filmmaker went to those people and asked them that why do you come to the beach for this activity? I'm sure it is embarrassing for you as well, but why? What is preventing you from doing this at home? Then maybe he can explain that, okay, we don't have plumbing over there, and our sewage systems are not maintained, or all these things. Then you can dig deeper. Why are the sewage systems not maintained? Who's
Oh.
profiting from the sewage not being maintained?
Mhm.
That is called investigative journalism.
Yeah, investigating the effect, just effect is no use. Investigating the cause.
But just doing a close up
Hmm.
on poop on the beach, and yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
shocking, it's ridiculous, and it's bizarre.
Mhm.
And but shock value sells tickets, and it sells clicks. And what happens with um, so okay, I'm going to say something slightly controversial in that these people who care about the image of a place, right? That they're defaming our country by showing all this. Uh, I don't agree with them, but at the same time, I can't denounce them also, because what people see in front of them is all that they believe.
Hmm.
I'll give you an example. Um, so, if I'm trying to remember which country it is in Africa, but one of these African countries was the first country in the world to uh, come up with a blood bank which is delivering blood by drones. And they do this because the road conditions are not good enough, and by the time the car reaches, it can be too late. So the blood delivery is done by drones. And but all you see about Africa is, oh, there is rioting, there is killing, there is poverty, there is hunger. That is all you see.
Mhm.
You're not getting a 360-degree view of what is going on.
Mhm.
So if the reporters only show everything that is wrong with the place, you would never go there as a tourist, right? Why would you go there? What's there? But my
Mhm.
sister has been to Africa. Some of my friends have been to Africa, and one of my good friends in college was from Nigeria, and the stories and the things I've heard from them and the things I've seen from them are, are completely different from what you usually see on TV or what you see in film.
So
So
ultimately, this NGOs and other what to say people who want to convey a agenda or make what to say make profit out of this.
no, it's not I don't think it's an agenda, because I
See,
hope
this
it's not
all
an agenda.
NGOs have to run ultimately, and they need fund. How this fund comes by advertising these people's misery. Um,
No, right now we're talking about films and news. So
yeah.
I don't. I hope there is no agenda, but I think this is just a financial decision that if bad news sells more clicks, that is a fact. That
Hmm.
if you show something horrible, people are more curious about it. So it's an easy way to make money.
Okay.
But from a filmmaking standpoint, I yeah, I don't take this kind of
So
filmmaking lightly, because it just shows how clueless they are as a filmmaker. And if they don't have something to say, they should not be making films,
mhm.
is my opinion. If you're taking the responsibility to present something to the world, why is that story worth telling? There should be some meaning behind it, right?
Mm,
Otherwise, go make Hollywood blockbuster movies. It's fine. I have no complaints against those.
mm.
But if you're making an indie film, art house film, documentary, then you have some sort of responsibility towards what you're portraying on screen.
Here is a one crazy thought coming to my mind. Suppose I want to make a film and there is a situation that one person wants commits suicide. before committing suicide, he has to tell why he's committing suicide.
Mhm.
For that, should I take the, if a director wants the real feeling or the real person doing the delivering that dialogue, and after that he dies.
Mhm.
Many videos are there. I haven't, I think one or two I have watched where the suicider have conveyed their reason for suiciding, means committing
Mhm.
suicide, and they died.
Mhm.
So we came to know why he has died. At this point, suppose as a director, I use that clip
Mhm.
in my movie.
Mhm.
Definitely it will convey the message, context, but it will be very inhuman to do that.
Okay, so you don't. So people commit suicide for very different reasons. Some because of relationships, some because of finances, some
Mm-hmm.
because of career. Could be
Mm-hmm.
anything, even education. There's many reasons for this. That is not the important part.
As a filmmaker, should I use that?
No, no, no. That's what I'm trying to say. The reason is not the important part, because one person's challenge is very different from another person's, right? For some person, having a 1 lakh loan is a life changing problem, right?
Mm.
Whereas for a businessman, they they may be making 1 lakh rupee transfers twice a day.
Mm.
So the reason, like the reason behind such an action is less important than uh, their personal ability to deal with the situation.
Mm.
So if you are going to make a film about this topic, then maybe you need to consider from this person's point of view that what has happened in his life that he cannot see hope anymore. What does hope look like for this person, and
Mm.
why why his fighting spirit has disappeared? How does one person give up on all these options before deciding that okay, the only option left is this? That is the more important question. That is something that everybody will relate with.
Mm.
Whereas this 1 lakh loan concept may not be universally
Mhm.
relatable. If you want to watch a film which deals with suicide in a very delicate and respectful manner, watch The Fire Within by Milos Forman.
Fire
I'll send
within.
you a link. Yeah, I'll send you a link later on of the film.
Mm.
So that is a good one, and that also inspired another film called Oslo, August 11, something like that, by Joachim Trier.
Mhm.
So that's very closely related to Fire Within. I would say watch Fire Within first.
Mhm.
So yeah, the human condition is more important than the circumstances.
Mm.
If you can bring some universal truth about how a person ends up at this position, then I think it will be much more relatable and much more respectful.
Yeah.
Then yeah, there's more things to say about the film, but I think the duration is getting too long. So
Oh, yeah.
I very quickly I'll just say something that both filmmakers Lars von Trier and uh, what's his name?
Jargon.
Yeah,
Jargon.
Jørgen Leth. So both of them are very happy to say they hate cartoons, and I thought that was very snobbish of them. Uh,
Yeah,
Maybe because
especially
from
you.
I'm from an animation background, so maybe
Yeah.
maybe because of that. But how do you feel about that? That
Actually, you know what I
yeah.
did after watching that? I actually watched this Cuckoo animated movie. Cuckoo, you
Okay.
know?
No.
Coco, that boy's guitar.
Oh, the Pixar
Coco,
movie.
Pixar movie, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So
Coco.
Coco, can
Yes.
it be considered as a cartoon? I think
Yeah, it
can
is.
be
Yeah. Yeah.
animated. Okay. Then I watched it. I enjoyed it a lot. More than enjoying, I could connect with the emotions of that people and boy. So it was. I think he was very wrong in saying that cartoons are useless in conveying the message or whatever. So it's more about their personal, and I think they mentioned it that they personally don't like it, uh, but it shouldn't be taken universally that cartoons are useless because because they are not. Movies have been made like Toy Story,
Hmm.
wonderful movies. So uh, Inside Out, my one of the best film of my Pixar.
Hmm.
Uh, so yeah, they were wrong. I am here. I'll shout out for them too. That yeah, you both guys are wrong.
Yeah. So, uh, one of the Pixar filmmakers, Brad Bird, has been very vocal about this. That he was so frustrated, he even put out a statement that I'll punch the next guy who says animation is a genre,
Mm-hmm.
because animation is not a genre. Animation is a medium. There's
Yeah.
a very
True.
big difference.
Mm.
So a genre means that you can only make one kind of film. This is action film is action film, romance film is romance film. But a medium is just a different way of storytelling. That's all.
Mm.
You can make an action film in animation. You can make a sci-fi film in animation. You can make a family drama in animation. You can do anything. It's just a different medium.
Mm.
It just so happens that kids enjoy animation and they're the biggest consumers of animation. So most of the animation films are made for kids. But there are animation films which are made for adults also. And
Mm.
there are many great animation films. And we'll feature some of these animation films in the future. But yeah, I find that incredibly silly that both
Mm.
filmmakers say that
Yeah.
they
That
hate
notion
cartoons. They're
don't.
proud to say it, that they hate cartoons. It kind of shows you a lot about their
How?
perspective of life, right? That
Yeah, close-minded individuals.
they've formed an opinion without truly giving it a chance. Whether it's animation or whether it's Bombay, they've
Mm.
labeled Bombay as the most miserable city without giving it a chance. And maybe I should bring up this fact before we leave.
Mm.
Lars von Trier has not traveled abroad. All his life, he's lived in Denmark.
Oh, okay.
Okay, he has some irrational fear of flying, and I'm not making fun of his uh, condition that he's not able to fly. I'm very sorry that he's not been able to travel abroad. But if he has only traveled by road within Europe, then does that give him a valid position to have such strong opinions about the US or India? Because he spent a lot of time criticizing American culture, American films, and all these things. Whether he calls in Bombay as the most miserable city or uh, US as the most cultureless place, these are very strong opinions that people will not agree with. And now that I've told you that he's not traveled abroad, one can argue that it is it is based on hearsay,
Mm.
that he's read something in the news and he thinks he knows about the world.
Mm.
Or if he's watched a few movies and he thinks he knows about the world. And anyone who who has traveled, right, will, I'm sure you will also agree, Mohammed, that what you learn about a place through books or through videos is one thing, but once you go there in person and you experience it in person and you meet the people and you form your own opinions by seeing with your own eyes, is completely different experience,
True.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And it might not even align with what you had previously known.
Yeah, no book can challenge my experience of that place,
Hmm.
good or bad.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's first-hand experience wins every time.
Yeah. And we just talked about how news agencies or documentary filmmakers may not always have the complete picture, may not
Yeah.
have the incentive to present the complete picture to you.
Hmm.
So Mr. Lars von Trier has been eating pre-digested uh, information about the world and thinks that his opinion is worth hearing about, that his
Hmm.
strong claims against what American culture is or what an Indian city is like should be taken seriously.
And even added to that, what I believe, what I sense that our media, no, news media, TV channels, that is what they are conveying, that outside world is horrible. Every news on the news channel, local news channel says that if you step outside, horrible things are going to happen.
It's a business decision.
But still, that's horrible. If suppose
Same with advertising, it's a business decision. If you feel
suppose
miserable
now
about
suppose
yourself, right,
now,
that, oh, I'm not beautiful enough, I'm not handsome enough,
yeah,
then you will
yeah,
buy more, beauty products
yeah. Ultimately,
to
that is what
make
now.
yourself more beautiful.
At least we had that what to say, luxury of experiencing nature, but now kids, the generation, to after 2000 generation, they are just relying on this what to say, second hand media information, social medias, and they are afraid to even try to experience what is what it is to go to a place, what that place means, what this person means. That is I think everyone is turning out to be that last Lars.
Lars von Trier, yeah.
And sitting in their room, they will just say this is what it is, and this is going to be this. That is what happening by this technology, social medias especially. Yeah.
Yeah, media is a very powerful tool. It gives you an illusion
Mm.
that you've seen and known everything.
And that's a wrong thing. We shouldn't
It's
what to
not. It's
say.
not true. And
Yeah.
ad agencies understand this, and they know how to manipulate it. They know
Mm.
to make people insecure will sell more products.
Mm.
You make them feel that they're not fashionable enough, they'll buy more fashionable things. Or
Mm.
like you said, right, put a celebrity in front on to promote a product, and people will buy it because they trust that celebrity.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a business decision, man. Like news being negative all the time, whether it's Indian news, American news, doesn't matter. It sells more clicks. That's the most important thing. Or it gives them more TRP on the
TRP,
TV.
yeah, TRP.
That is the most important thing. Because
Mm.
once you have a larger audience, you can sell more ads and sell. So yeah, it's a cycle.
Mm.
That's the reason, I prefer not to read news too much. Uh, it's all doom and gloom all the time for no reason.
Yeah.
Whereas, all the statistics say that we are living in a much safer society than we ever did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, there are things which are getting worse. I will not deny, but things are also getting better. But we don't see that being given any share.
Mm.
So yeah, I think we should wrap up because it's been far too long. It's going to be
Yeah,
difficult for
and I
people
hope
to.
we have covered most of the points too.
Yeah, I had more points, but it's fine. We can we can talk about it in the group. But yeah, it's been a long video, so it's going to be
Yeah.
difficult for people to
Then
listen
we'll
to so
conclude
long.
it. Yeah, we'll
If you're
conclude it.
listening for the entire duration, I really want to thank you. Can't imagine the level of patience it must have taken to listen to a 2-hour video, but thank you for listening. See you guys next week.